Have you ever waited longer than you meant to? We had agreed on 4. He said he would meet us at the corner. Not a busy corner, just a stop sign, a mailbox, and a sidewalk that didn't lead anywhere interesting. We arrived early. Being early felt like preparation. We're first, he said. That sounded correct. We stood near the sign and watched both directions of the street. At 3:58, we stopped talking. 4 o'clock was close enough to deserve attention. He'll be here, he said. I nodded. 4 arrived. Nothing else did. We kept looking down the road as if looking was part of the meeting. A car turned the corner slowly. We both straightened. It passed without slowing. That wasn't him, he said. I hadn't asked. At 4:02 a.m., woman walked by with grocery bags. She glanced at us. Then she glanced again. You boys waiting for someone? She asked. Yes, he said. She smiled politely. That kind of smile usually meant she didn't believe you. She kept walking. We watched her disappear instead of watching the road. At 4:05, we switched sides of the sign. This felt like a decision. A dog barked somewhere behind a fence. We looked anyway. Still nothing. He's probably just late, I said. Yeah, he said. Probably sounded reasonable. We accepted it immediately. A small kid rolled past on a scooter. He slowed down and stared. What are you doing? He asked. Waiting, he said. The kid considered this. For what? For someone. The kid nodded like that made sense. Then he rolled away slowly, still watching us. At 4:08, we checked the opposite direction. This felt strategic. If someone was late, they could come from anywhere. A truck turned loudly. We both leaned forward. The truck kept going. He cleared his throat and looked down the street again. He might be coming from farther away, he said. That explanation had no proof. It still helped. At 4:12, we kicked a rock back and forth. Not to play, to look occupied. Waiting without movement looked obvious. Movement looked casual. A breeze pushed dust along the curb. The mailbox door tapped once and stopped. We watched it like it might do something else. At 4:15 a.m., man across the street stepped outside with a paper bag. He noticed us immediately. You boys all right? He called. We're fine, he said. The man looked at the empty street. You've been standing there a while, he said. We're meeting someone, I added. The man nodded slowly. Well, he said. Hope he shows up. He went back inside. We did not speak. At 4:18, I adjusted my shoes. They did not need adjusting. He checked both directions again. Nothing had changed. He said 4, I said. He meant around 4, he answered. Around was a useful word. It stretched time without breaking promises. At 4:21 a.m., car slowed near us. We stood straighter. The window stayed closed. The car drove away. We relaxed like nothing had happened. At 4:24, we stopped kicking the rock. At 4:26, we stopped leaning on the sign. At 4:28, we stopped pretending we weren't waiting. Silence settled beside us. Not empty silence. Listening silence. A woman pushing a stroller passed. She looked at us. Then she looked back again after 5 steps. We watched her wheels instead of her face. At 4:31, he said quietly, He's coming. No one was there. I didn't answer. Because I understood. Saying it made it feel closer. At 4:34, the streetlight flickered once. It wasn't dark. That felt early. A boy on a bike rode by fast, then circled back. You guys still here? He asked. Yes, he said. The boy squinted down the road. I don't see anyone, he said. We do, he answered. The boy nodded uncertainly and rode off. We did not look at each other. At 4:37, my legs hurt. I did not mention that. Pain sounded like impatience. Impatience sounded like doubt. We stayed, because staying still felt stronger than leaving. At 4:40, the wind shifted. Paper moved along the sidewalk and caught on the curb. We watched it struggle, then stop. Neither of us said anything. At 4:43, he spoke again. We can wait a little longer. That sentence wasn't a suggestion. It was a decision. I nodded, because I already knew we weren't leaving yet. At 4:46, the street felt wider. Not actually wider, just harder to fill. We shifted our weight from one foot to the other and watched the corner as if it owed us something. He's close, he said. His voice sounded certain. Certainty can exist without evidence. I nodded because agreement was easier than math. At 4:49 a.m., car turned slowly toward us. We straightened at the same time. The car slowed. Our shoulders lifted. Then it turned into a driveway before reaching us. Neither of us moved for a second. Then he cleared his throat. Not him, he said. I know, I answered. We both kept looking anyway. At 4:52 a.m., breeze pushed leaves across the road. They scratched softly on the pavement. That sound lasted longer than any car. A door opened somewhere behind us. We turned fast. A teenager stepped out holding headphones. He looked at us like we were part of the street. You guys waiting for someone? He asked. Yes, he said. The teenager looked down both directions. No one's coming, he said. We know, he replied. The teenager shrugged and walked away. We watched him go until he turned the corner. At 4:55, the mailbox clicked again. I checked the road. Nothing. He checked the sky. Still nothing. He said 4, I said. He's late, he answered. Late sounded temporary. Not coming sounded final. We preferred temporary. At 4:58 a.m., truck passed fast. Wind pushed our shirts back. For a moment it felt like movement counted as progress. Then it was quiet again. My legs hurt more now. His shoulders looked tighter. We didn't mention either. At 5 o'clock, the time finally became a fact. 5 o'clock meant something different. 4 meant waiting. 5 meant deciding. We did neither. At 5:02, he kicked the rock again. It rolled farther this time. We both watched it stop near the curb. We could check the other corner, he said. That idea sounded smart. Also unnecessary. If he comes, he'll come here, I answered. He nodded. Logic can defend hope for a long time. At 5:05 a.m., woman walking her dog slowed near us. The dog stared. The woman stared longer. You still waiting? She asked. Yes, he said. She looked at the empty street. Well, she said gently. I hope he knows that. She kept walking. We watched the dog until it turned its head away. At 5:09, the air felt cooler. The sun had shifted behind the houses. Shadows stretched across the sidewalk and reached our shoes. He stepped out of the shade, then stepped back into it. We still didn't leave. At 5:12, he spoke again. Maybe he got delayed. That word sounded official. Delayed meant there was a reason. Reasons meant we weren't wrong. Yeah, I said. At 5:15, silence returned. Not the waiting silence from before. A thinner one. The kind that doesn't expect anything. A car turned at the far end of the street. We both looked. It stopped at a stop sign. We watched it for 5 seconds. Then it turned the other way. Neither of us reacted. That was new. At 5:18, he asked quietly, What time is it? I told him. He nodded once. Tom had stopped helping. At 5:21 a.m., porch light came on across the street. No one stood there. The light just stayed. We looked at it longer than necessary. At 5:24, he said, We could leave and come back. That sentence sounded careful. Not leaving, just rearranging waiting. He might come while we're gone, I said. He nodded. That settled it. We stayed. At 5:28, the street was almost empty. Even the wind had slowed. The rock sat where we left it. The sign didn't move. The road didn't change. Only time did. At 5:31, he finally looked at me instead of the street. for the first time all afternoon. We should go, he said. His voice wasn't angry, just tired. I nodded, because I had known for a while. We didn't say anything else. We just stepped away from the corner. Not fast, not slow, just away. Walking felt strange, like we were breaking a rule we had invented. Halfway down the block, I looked back. The corner looked exactly the same. The sign, the mailbox, the empty road. Nothing there showed how long we had waited. He didn't look back. He kept walking. After a few steps, he said, "We stayed a long time." "Yes," I said. Then he added, "At least we didn't leave too early." That sentence stayed between us. Not proud, not sad, just something we needed to believe. We reached the end of the block. The corner disappeared behind the houses. And only then did it finally feel true. He wasn't coming. We had known. We had stayed. Because leaving early would have felt like losing. But leaving late still felt like something close to it.